Hi, welcome to the PhD Journey Unplugged podcast, where we explore the intersection between health, human performance, and the strength for the journey within. My name is Dr. Sarah Gordon, and I'm the host of the show. Today, I have invited a guest on my show who I believe personifies what we're going to call aging in motion. It's a way of living well across the lifespan. My guest name is Vanessa Brown. She joins us from Canada. And where in Canada are you?
I'm in Alberta.
Alberta. Okay.
Yeah,
And
Alberta, Canada. It's,
and
it's snowing right now.
it's snowing.
Yes. We have winter for like 10 months, and then a little bit of spring, and then a little bit of fall, and then back into winter.
Oh my gosh. Well, I want to talk about that because it probably supports an active lifestyle. So,
Yeah.
your story, I've known you for a couple years now, and I was excited to get you on the show because I feel like your story, when we frame it within aging in motion, it's a story of adaptation throughout your life,
Yes.
about, I like to call it emerging identity, that you haven't been scared to try different things throughout your life, not just stay like with just as like a swimmer, like you've done. We'll talk about this, but you've tried a lot of different things. And I think you just have confidence in aging. And there's a lot to teach people about how to do that, how to age with good health, and how to approach it with a lot of grace and acceptance. Your life experiences, and I'm going to go through that. When I look at, you started very early on. Your whole life has been shaped by movement and continuous learning. And I'm excited
Mhm.
to share, and we'll talk about it on this episode today. You're still learning. You've just enrolled in some courses.
Oh, absolutely. You never stop.
Yeah.
I'll never stop taking a learning experience until I'm wherever I'm going next.
Well, so I think that's just an important message for us to teach on this platform, because this platform's about mental health, physical health, continuous learning, growth mindset. And so, Vanessa, you definitely personify it, and I'm just excited to have you here. And I when I look at your resume and your background, I mean, you've been involved in swimming, gymnastics, ballet, aquatics, coaching, wellness. I mean, everything over the years. And I want to just
God, I'm
before
old.
we no, you're not. You're not. But as we talk about aging in motion and accepting aging and adapting over the years, when I look at this, and there's no way I can go through all of it. Let me just tell our listeners it's extensive. It's pages. But you started at athletics, and you've noted it, early on at age
Mhm.
7 to 14.
Yeah.
Competitive sprint swimmer, diving competition, gymnastics, national finalists, ballet lessons at the Canadian National Ballet Company, athletics or intramural, volleyball, badminton. So you've been deeply involved in sport your entire life.
Correct. Yeah.
So I guess the first question, so that I want to kind of, so our listeners get to know you, is, what did it mean to you being active, even starting early on when we start to talk about aging in motion?
Well, I think from the very beginning, my father was my main caregiver, you might say, and he was very involved in outdoor activities. So when he worked three jobs. So when he came home, his weekends was his downtime. But then he took a job as an aquatics director, and therefore, at that point I was just a little like 18 months old child, and he said, "Well, I'll take her to the pool with my sister." So that's how it started. We started in the aquatics in the pool. He would just hand us off to a instructor and say, "Okay, you take care of her for this one," and then hand over there. And I grew up in the pool basically. And then he became sort of like, "Oh, well, what would you like to do? As far as playing piano or doing this or doing that. I said, no, I like swimming. So
Oh,
that's when I started the swimming. And then it just like it was just a gradual movement towards, as I got older, then I got competitive and then it just continued. And then outside of that, it was like, oh, I wonder that, gymnastics kind of took off. It's because the school was so involved back then,
hmm.
in health and wellness. And so I got involved there. So that's how that kind of. And then I was watching, I forget what, I don't know if it was the Nutcracker, but I remember watching a ballet, something to do with ballet. And I said, oh, I'd love to do that. So then my mom put me in a ballet school, and that's where that came from. So it was all kind of interconnected. So,
Hmm.
one day or one week I do ballet, the next week I, do a competitive gymnastics and then go back into the pool. So I was in constant motion, and I kind of stuck in some play in there with my neighborhood friends and, so we never sat still, but it was a healthy movement. And then, like, luckily we lived behind a ravine, so we ended up a whole bunch of our neighborhood kids that we grew up with would go down the ravine. Like that was the big thing. Let's go down to the ravine. And that's where the nature part, the herbs, because it used to be an old farm where our house was built. So there was still things growing there, but it was wild, like wild raspberries, wild strawberries, apple trees. So that was like party time for us, right? So climbing trees, things that we were lucky and fortunate to do back then. And
So nice. When
yeah,
you talk about it, is joy.
it is. It was pure bliss, like, and I mean, we always ended up, breaking bones or something, like we'd fall out of the trees and off to the hospital we go and, get that fixed and then back we go, and it was just, that's what you did, type of thing.
But it's interesting because not to get us too far off track, but when I meet people who like say swam very early on in life, especially if it was like very competitive, they tend to not enjoy it as much as adults.
I think
You-
that's where you need that happy balance.
Okay, I was
Like
curious about
I
that.
never focused solely on swimming, or I never focused on ballet, or I never focused on gymnastics. It was like part of me, this little
Right.
part here, this little part here, this little part here. And that's how I learned where my strengths were and where my weaknesses were.
It's
And did I
interesting.
really like doing that? Or did I prefer this? So I was making choices at a very young age,
Yeah,
uh, and
you were.
developing those choices, right? Where I think a lot of kids today don't have those choices, you know, because of whatever reason. But I mean, I was fortunate that we were very independent at that age. I think that's why, like, a lot of my cycling came in because we're on our bikes at 7:30 in the morning and we're gone, until, oh, we know it's lunchtime, so we're back. But all we did was ride our bikes.
As a
So
kid, you
that's
mean?
where,
As a kid?
yeah, yeah. So that's where the Grand Fondos come in, where I could do 88 kilometers, right? Because I'm used to riding all day. So it fits. It's like a puzzle.
Yeah, we learn these habits. It sounds like you learn these habits very early on
Yes.
in your life. And I wonder if it's interesting. I wonder if it's, and I actually have a question about how has living in Canada shaped your experience with physical activity? Do you think it's different growing up in
I think
Canada?
not really. I think it the time that I grew up in, I think is different from today. Like we would walk to school. I would be in kindergarten, and I would be allowed to walk to school by myself or with my friends.
Hmm.
I mean, you can't do that today, apparently, like the kids, because I have, like neighbors that drive their kids down to the end of the driveway so that they can catch the bus so that they can go across the street to the school.
Right.
Like, hello,
It's like less than a half a mile, right? Or
you
quarter
know?
mile.
Like it's nuts. And then I used to walk to high school and it used to take me 30 minutes because it was farther away, but who cares? I mean, that's what I did. and you get your little group in there and carry on. So we had that freedom, I guess. And I think being in the States, you probably had that as well. I think it's more of the age that we lived in back then, like
Yeah, things have definitely changed, and I think there's a lot of influence for us not to be as active as children. So I think that, um,
exactly.
you
Yeah.
know,
Well, with technology too, that's a
yeah.
whole topic right there,
hmm
you know.
So I like how so are starting this conversation in terms of aging emotion because for you and because we all want to learn from you today.
Oh,
Because when we get to what you're doing now, it's really interesting. But you have this wonderful foundation, starting it with your father in the pool and just and being in that environment and just and enjoying it
mhm,
and just letting and growing from there. Now, I know as we kind of walk through, your experiences in your life, and let me just turn to this page because I want to make sure I do this chronologically. Feel free to share as much as you want. I think it's just an important part of your story because it didn't
mhm.
derail you. You found your way back after an accident when you were 14. And I also think that you understand perhaps just movement and nurturing your body from it. So share as much as you would like. I know you had
Sure.
from our past conversations too, you had an accident when you were 14.
That's correct. I was hit by a car when I was 14. Unfortunately, I was in a side road, and this young fella took a car and decided to go about 120 miles an hour down the side street. And I was on my bike, and bang. So I just remember from the police report that I hit so hard the front, and that's when the cars were made when they had the peak in the front of the car. So
hmm
I hit the peak, and it had projected me up and over the car onto the side of the road, and then I rebounded off the side of the road back into the front, but he had braked and rolled over me. So it was sort of like a full on, like,
A serious
yeah,
accident.
because even the police was going, wow, I don't know how that happened. But then the people that came out too um, picked me off the ground because I was in kind of a different shape.
Mm.
Like my leg was broken and my arms were all over the place. I remember being conscious and saying, because this gentleman came out and the first thing he wanted to do was elevate me. I said, don't touch me. And I think the way I said it was very aggressive, right? Don't move me is what I meant, but I came out,
Right.
don't touch me. And the first thing he did is lift me up, which broke all the back part of my spine,
Oh my
right?
gosh.
So, word there, if you see somebody on the ground, don't touch them, you know.
Right. Don't touch them.
So then after that, I was in the hospital I went into full traction for 6 months. So that's where they pull your body back into position
hmm
because it was all over the place. And I remember one of the doctors in the emergency care, they had to have six of them hold me down while they kind of put me back. And so then after being in the hospital for 6 months in a traction, then I was in a body cast for another 4 months. So that's from a cast from here all the way down to the ground, or legs and everything. So
Mm-hmm.
that was really fun. So then after that, when I had the body cast, of course I lost all this weight, because and my body
And
was
muscle
used to
atrophy.
eating flat, because I couldn't sit up. So whatever nutrition I took kind of sat there because I couldn't, and I wasn't moving, and they couldn't move me other than a little bit of my arms. So I lost a lot of weight and a lot of body mass and strength. So then I remember after I had the cast removed, then I was to go into a home for rehab. And I said, I'm not going anywhere. I'm done here. I'm going home.
Mm.
And they said, no, you're 14 years old. You don't know what you're talking about. I said, I don't care if I ever walk again, but I'm going home. So I just remember my dad literally scooping me up in his arms and saying, "Let's go home." And so
Oh,
we went home. I know my dad, bless him.
oh my gosh, what a
And
good guy.
I know I love my
I
father.
just felt
God
that in
bless
my
him.
heart.
Wherever he is. He's looking over me all the time. It's all good.
They're
So
making
we
a
went
heart.
home
There you go.
and
There's
he
the
put
heart.
me in the backyard. He put me in the backyard. I remember on one of those chaise lounges. And then he says to me, "Okay, so you can either sit there for the rest of your life or you can get up and follow me in the house." And I says, "Okay." And I had crutches at this point, right? So then I slowly sat up, and I slowly walked and like he was literally helping me, you know, because that's who he was.
Right.
He went through a lot in his life, right? So he really, we rehabbed together, and it was just something that I was so determined. Like I fell a lot, you know, and
Hmm.
I had to be driven to my school because I told you that little story where I was put in one of these car or buses and shipped off to school. And I thought, well, I'm not doing this anymore. So I started walking home. I had a teacher, though, bless him, Dr. Gold or Mr. Gold. He would pick me up, and because I told him my experience, and he'd drive me home. But then, as I said, no, this is good. Thank you, but I need to build up my strength. So it was just something in my head that I knew I had to do it myself. I had
Wow.
to get that strength back myself. So then I would walk home with the crutches and stuff. And I'd have really nice friends and they'd make sure I got home and stuff like that. So that's basically, I rehabbed myself for, it probably took longer, but
And
you know,
I have a note here when we talk about this. You said everything came to a grinding halt
yes,
except swimming. So
yes.
so when you started to move a bit, how did you find being in the water helping you rehab?
Well, again,
And I'm not trying to
like,
plant a seed because I know you're it's like
oh no, no,
aquatics have been
that's
part of
where
your
I
whole
belong.
life,
It's
even
that's
now.
where I belonged in the water. And my
Yes.
father then took me to the pool like every weekend, like he used to.
But
And I would just go by myself in
okay.
the pool. And I would be doing movements in the pool that I felt helped my body. So it was a conscious thing, like my arms, moving my
Mhm.
arms, like treading water, going in the deep end. I was in the deep end a lot, and stretching my legs and things like that, and it felt really good. So eh, not so much of
At 14,
swimming.
right? At
Yeah,
14, 15. I mean, this is why you're such a
absolutely.
remarkable person. I mean, we're going to keep going, but I mean, I want my listeners to understand this is at 14 and 15. This is somebody who just understood it at such a young age and continues to understand it now. So keep going. Your story is so
Yeah, no,
fascinating.
and it's true. It's just like I was rehabbing myself because I
Yeah,
was
it's
the
remarkable.
key is I was listening to my body. Like it was like we were two people. There was my body and my mind telling me how to heal it.
Yeah,
So we're working
remarkable.
together as a unit,
Mm-hmm.
right? And then that's why I really love teaching aquafit because it's body, mind, and spirit. Those are the three essential elements of a human being. My word. So then I would sit there and I would always think because when I had my car accident, I thought I closed my eyes because the police thought, "Oh my God, that you must have been in sheer pain." And I said, "No," because it was almost like I knew this was going to happen and my body elevated. I know it sounds weird, but
Hmm.
I remember releasing the handlebars of the bike and being elevated.
Hmm.
So I felt no pain. And that's your brain saying, let's not take you down this road. Let's take you somewhere else.
Wow.
So I never felt the pain of the hit. It was the afterglow, as I call it, the
That's
healing,
that's
right?
I don't know exactly what that is, but that's incredible that you had that experience. And
I've had that a
you
lot.
hear people talk about things like that, and that would be an
Mm.
interesting other episode to have. But
Yeah, that's a whole different
and
ball
the
game.
fact that you remember you had so much detail about it too
I
is
still
really
do.
incredible. And that's why I kind of wanted
Yeah.
to You still do. It's an important part of your journey.
It is.
And it's important
It's
to
the whole part. It's the whole
right,
person. And
right,
I think if I didn't have any of those pieces, I wouldn't be that whole person,
right.
you know, and so that's important.
So, um, you have a note here at 16. So let's go to 16. So I'm assuming between 14 and 16, things are getting back to kind of
The norm,
a
pretty
new
much.
normal. This is where
Yeah.
that adaptation and that, being comfortable in identity and, just changing a bit. Things had to change a bit as
Mhm.
you recovered and rehabbed and regained your strength. But you have a note here at 16 and up, you started participating in marathons.
Yes,
Now, how do
because
you
I
go
thought,
from this accident to now being a runner? Okay.
because I just
Walking
felt
and
like,
running, but
and swimming. The swimming was
swimming.
the first thing I actually started competing again.
And the
But
Grand
in
Fondo
my
cycling.
brain,
The Grand Fondo cycling. Okay, so
yeah,
how do you
yeah,
get from 16 up to, let's say, let's go to, I don't know, do you want to go to like third 20s, 30s?
sure,
Okay,
those were good
where do you
years.
go from there?
Those were good years.
Let's go from
Yes.
there.
Okay, so basically the adaptation, because that's when I started having my kids.
Okay.
So I had to fit in because I love my children. Don't get me wrong, but they're not my whole life, right?
Okay.
Like people say, I live for my children. I mean, I live for my children to a point, but there's a point where I have to take care of myself. So I always made time to do for me. So that's my swimming, biking, and running. And the kids knew that, and along with my other stuff, because they'd always make fun of me. Oh, there goes old mother out for a run again. Call the ambulance.
No.
Little brats. But anyway, but I think it was more of a I'm doing it for myself, but they're seeing that. So then they're doing it because my son took up the marathons and things. He started to do that. And I thought, and he was a good swimmer, but like all three were good swimmers, but they tried it. Um, my youngest girl, she liked the gymnastics end of things. So because they saw a lot of activity in our lives and because we were moving a lot, they had that opportunity like I had as a child. So I'm hoping that they carry on with that, but not so
Okay.
much.
Well, and no, they do. They learn, look, you learned from your father and then they learn from you. And that's how important physical activity is in
It
terms of our
really is.
lives
Yeah.
and having role models with it when
Yeah.
you're lucky, fortunate enough to have that. Okay, so marathon, triathlon, um, personal trainer, group fitness leader, National Lifeguard Service, swim coach, I Chi, which we're going to talk about what that is. Yoga. You just, and then if I go through like, I mean, I can't read all the races, but you've done Canada's,
Well, it
go
used to
ahead.
be a standing joke that I would just do it for the medal because I like them. They're
Great.
so pretty.
But I mean, it's hard for, I can't read them all, but
No, it's fine.
what just, but believe me, to our listeners, it's extensive. And the reason I spent so much time in your early childhood and in your adolescence and teens and um is because it's been a thread through your whole life.
Yes. Yeah.
And even raising your children, you were able to maintain it. So what do you think motivates you then and you're still doing it now? Actually, before I ask you that, what motivates you?
Uh-huh.
Share with our
Uh-huh.
listeners. Let's go to what you're involved in now.
Right now?
We're gonna skip 40s, 50s, and 60s.
Yeah, because they're boring.
Well, I get the feeling you were competitive. You did a lot of
Yes.
races. You did a lot of
Yes.
things.
Yeah.
Um, I think
And I
on a
worked
past
in the aquatics.
Right. And in the past conversation, I think you were involved. We had talked about like Canada's triathlon community
Hmm.
and what
Hmm.
that looked like in terms of growing that within your community. But share with our listeners now what you're involved in.
Right now, what I'm doing is another coach of mine, my friend who I worked with in aquatics. She's now teaching triathlon as a coach, but she's never done a triathlon.
Interesting.
So I can't get my head around that because how can you teach something you've never done? Anyways, so I volunteered my time because now I'm retired, um, to come out and help her. So that's basically what I'm doing now. And because I'm retired, I just do it for fun because of the love of the sport, to keep it active, keep triathlon going, because I noticed that in Canada, it's declining, which is sad, really sad.
Interesting.
So, like a lot of the triathlons that I used to do now are becoming marathons slash triathlons. So, you can got a little bit of triathlon going on, but we're going to get the racing for the marathons still because people still like running. So, I thought, well, that's kind of sad, So, at least I'm trying to keep it going, keep
Hmm.
it, active, because a lot of people are just not exercising anymore. And
When did
it's
you
really
start?
important.
When did you start triathlon? How old were you?
I think I was in my early 50s.
Okay, that was
Because what I was doing is that I was, and this is a really good point everybody should really be self-aware of, is to adapt your body. I know we talk about adaptation. You have to listen to your body, and it will say to you, I don't think we should do this anymore.
oh,
Why
that's
don't we do
interesting.
this? So, like, instead of me doing, say, these marathons, that my body is saying, I think maybe we'll try a half a marathon this year. Okay, that's great. That works great. Oh, let's try a 10K. You know,
Well, what are
okay.
the signals that your body tells you?
I think your body is telling you that things are changing, hormonal in women and men. But again, it all revolves around everything, right? Your eating habits, your exercise habits, your mental state. It all revolves, they all have to be in sync. It all has to move like a rhythm. But sometimes something happens, like I fell on the ice. And just like I lied there, I thought, well, God, I'm just gonna lie here. Somebody's gonna find me, right? So I had to change and adapt to recover from that. So I had to cut back on this, cut back on that. So when I thought with my running, and I can honestly say that in any of my sports, I never injured myself. Where I hurt myself was when I fell on the ice or my dog tripped me up and I fell. But
Right.
I've never caused an injury caused by doing something because I knew that my body was important and to listen to it. And so if it told me to slow down, I'd slow down. I wasn't in a race to win it. I was in it to finish it with
Mhm.
a smile on my face and say, wow, what I did, and give me the medal.
I give me that pretty medal.
That's what I'm
I
here for.
I interviewed a gentleman for a story I wrote once, and kind of like lessons learned and aging in sport. And he said the absolute most important thing is stretching in aging through motion. That it was absolutely his secret to success.
Funny enough, um, stretching is important, but because I've learned so much,
Right,
uh, uh,
fair.
right, about all sorts of different things, ingredients and stuff. Stretching can actually be harmful if you're not doing it correctly.
Interesting.
And most people don't do it correctly. So I thought, well, that's interesting because when I went to my um, uh, physiotherapist, she's lovely. Her name's Josephine. In what's her? She's very sweet. She says, because she's a sports um, as physiotherapist, she says that people stretch, but they don't realize that they're doing it wrong. It's because you have to think of how your body moves, right? We don't move like this, right? But when they do the stretching, like you see the stretching all the time, all the different, but
Right.
that's what you know what I mean? Like,
Well, before we started to record this episode today, you were teaching me about something that you're doing now, the Chinese.
oh
What
yes,
is that now? And maybe
it's
that's
called
the way to,
qigong,
okay,
and that's exactly right. Because what I've it's Chinese. It's a Chinese movement, and it's all about meridians and things. And again, I'm going to take another one of those little courses for my my Wild Rose because they've got Chinese medicine. So I thought, oh, I'm going to take that course too. But it was enlightening because it's moving your body gracefully with the breath, basically. And so that's so you're still stretching, but it's a gentle stretch. It's with your breath. And I noticed that when I was running again, I bought this book. It's called Chi Running, and
chi running,
Chi Running,
CHI.
yes, and the whole position of your body when you're running. People think you have to run upright, but you're going to naturally ruin your knees, ruin your ankles, ruin your back because you don't run straight up. You bend forward and relax so that your quads, your biggest muscle in your body, as far will take most of the weight off your knees and off your. So like I'm like, wow, this is awesome. So that's how I started to learn how to run better, right? And then I felt, oh my gosh, this is like a miracle. And then I hear about shoes. You know how they're making the heels this big now and all cushiony and everything? Well, that's really not good for you because your feet are not feeling the ground, right? So we're moving off the ground and we're relying on these shoes that make you do this. So what is your body going to be doing? Compensating constantly while you're moving, right? And you're putting more stress on your body by trying to keep balanced.
Hmm.
So if you like most Africans, which I always found fascinating, would run barefoot. And
Mhm.
people say, well, you can't run barefoot in a marathon, which you can't. But they created shoes that are like their feet, literally like their feet, and they have this thin layer. And then they were allowed to use those shoes in the Olympics. And of course, they just clean out, because but their bodies are just incredible because they're using their natural gait
Mhm.
to protect the rest of their body, and it's just a natural, walking or running movement. So that was another big, huge thing I learned. So out with the big shoes and
Well,
down the little heels.
is that, you know, these are excellent examples of adaptation.
Exactly,
Whether you're
exactly,
adapting your sport, whether you're adapting to aging, while you're adapting your equipment, you personify again why I wanted to have you on my show. You study things, you learn, you've kept physical activity in your life throughout your lifespan, and you're still learning, you're still adapting, and you're picking up, this information along the
exactly.
way. Can
Yep.
you, for our listeners, can you spell the breathing? It's like kind of like Tai Chi, but how do you spell what you're doing now? I can't
Oh,
remember it.
it's called qigong. So it's qigong. Yeah, it's CHI
Okay.
and then GONG.
Okay.
So it's like
Qigong.
qi gong, and
Okay.
qi stands for the energy in the body,
Mhm.
and the gong is like their meridians, like they have all their meridians, your liver, your lungs, um, your internal organs, your brain, everything. So what what it basically does is it's part of it's a mind meditation as well. You're bringing in chi into your body, and you're that chi is then filling every ounce of your body, your blood system, everything. to bring energy and take out your old energy and bring in the new energy in all these different meridians. So, I mean, it's the same as I Chi, in the water. You're doing the same thing because basically it's the same movement.
Can you
And
explain
it,
I Chi? Can you explain that to our listeners?
yeah, the I Chi, again, like I was saying to you, was created by a Japanese scientist that had a paraplegic child. And he wanted to put his child in the water and allow the child to move. So as he put his child in the water, he watched his child move in the water, and she would do these movements with her arms, although she couldn't, and her legs, and
Mm,
and the smile on her face, like she
mm,
was just in heaven, like she was like it was balancing her and allowing her to move. So
hmm.
he created these movements in the water on her behalf. And then, of course, that's how I got my certification in it through CALA. And so that's what we were teaching. And you can teach it in a shallow pool if you want. You can do it or you can do it in the deep end. It's easy. It doesn't, you can, it's very versatile. And if it's a rehab, then you can put it in a nice, like a warmer climate pool, which is helpful for, say, seniors or somebody that's really, you know, um, handicapped or whatever. So it's very versatile, very versatile.
So let me ask you this, and I mean, I kind of know the answer, but because it's been part of your whole life, even from your childhood, but I'm a big believer in the water for
Oh, yes.
everything, for
Yeah.
aging, as a balance to doing, you can do all kinds of things, swim, cycle, strength train, yoga, pickleball, all sports. I'm into, I love all sports. But I think there's something about the water because I saw the same thing my father, I've said on the show before, my father had Alzheimer's disease and in the last couple year and a half or so, we would take him to the pool. Same thing that you're talking about this child. He would like come like, on land he was very like flat affect, not a lot of communication. In the pool, he just like kind of came to life,
Oh, yeah.
smiling, moving. So what? And I mean, I feel it for myself. You have a hard day, you're going through different things, and you feel, that burden of everything, and get in the water, swim some laps, and you just come out like a different person. So from all your training and experience, like, what is that? Is it the buoyancy? Is it like, I'm just curious.
I think,
What do you think it is?
I think if you look at it in a spiritual side,
Okay.
we are conceived in water,
Mm-hmm.
right? And then we grow in water, right? We're in the uterus and it's the fluid and everything. So we're moving in the uterus as a child before birth, right? We still have those fluid movements. And then when we're born, then naturally that dissipates. But then if you put a baby, and I taught baby classes up at like 6 months and up, into the water, it's like they're back where they were. They're back where they belong.
Oh.
So it's I've seen them, like you put them in they're screaming and their mother's bringing them out of the change room going, but it's not going to work. I said, wait, and then just very rhythmically move the child. And then they start smiling. And then it's like, oh, I remember this. I remember this, right? So I think that's where it starts.
That's
And then
so
it's just a
interesting.
matter of continuing along. I mean, you have to respect the water, you know, and you can't be frightened of the water because a lot of people do. Like my mother would not go in water. No. Um, Even when I had an experience where I almost drowned in the water in a full pool, but I that still didn't deter me. That was
Hmm.
like, it's okay. I just relax. And I don't know how I did it subconsciously, but I just kept thinking, just kind of breathe. And I could breathe, but my head was under the water, although I wasn't sure if it was or whether I was subconsciously leaning up and taking a breath and then going back down. I don't know what it was. But anyway, I knew that back in the day, the lifeguard, we'd have a 15-minute rotation. So every 15 minutes, the whistle would blow and everybody has to go to the side and then the lifeguards can check. So that's when they saw me in the pool
Wow.
on the bottom, right? And they're it was in the shallow end, so that's why I'm thinking I must have floated, but the pool was so crowded back then, right?
Hmm.
So I don't know what happened, but they took me out, and I was unconscious, but I was still breathing. So that never deterred me. It never thought I'm never going to go near water again, because to me the water saved me. I took it up the other way, right?
Okay, so that's a remarkable statement. Like how do you do that? How do you come out of something, your accident or the pool experience, and have these positive frames of reference to just continue on, to trust the water? You're, you're a swim coach. You're an aquatics teacher. You are, we're a lifeguard. Like, how do you, a triathlete, a marathon runner, all these things. How do you turn, and I guess I could maybe broaden it and say, like, what motivates you? Like, how do you learn to be adaptable like that?
I think it's something that I've always had to do. Like I
Okay.
think because um, I feel lucky that I have the opportunities, that I wasn't born in technology. So, I mean, technology is wonderful. I'm not saying
Hmm.
it's not, because, I love researching things, and I mean, used for the good.
Hmm.
It's great, but it's not the only thing. Again, it's like I said, it's just a little piece of the whole, right? So to me, my goal is to maintain my health, to maintain my spirituality, and to continue on my journey as healthy as I can for my body. So that means feeding it food that is a good quality. I buy the best foods, because that's one thing my husband and I said: we've got money to spend on good quality food. We're blessed with that. So what we don't need all that other stuff. Food first is what I say.
Food
And then
first.
whatever falls into whatever's left, then that's we are. But food first, we don't cut back on good quality food.
Hmm.
And so that's number one, where people, anyway, that's another story.
Well,
But um, it was funny, because there was this one gentleman in this food aisle. He says, because my whole cart was full of, there was not a box in there, and he looks into my cart and he looks at me, he says, "Don't you buy anything in a box?" And I went, "No."
that's
He says, "Do you
awesome.
mind if I follow you around?" Okay,
Really?
that's creepy, but okay.
Yeah, but he wanted to
Because he
learn
wanted
from
to
you.
learn. This
Yes.
gentleman wanted to learn.
Yes.
And I thought that's awesome.
That
And
is
and I think
awesome.
that's what we need to do, is we have to progress and learn what's going to keep us sustainable and healthy and happy in the rest of our life, however long that is, you
So
know.
that leads me to, this is a great segue into what I wanted to also talk about. So you are most recently studying herbal remedies, herbal, I guess it's called herbal pharmacy. Is that right?
Well, yeah,
A-
it's wild
And aroma.
rose. Yeah, the wild rose is it's a correspondence group for like I picked the herbal pharmacy because it was condensed, and because I'm retired, I don't need to get the full on credentials that
Okay.
if you want to be a pharmaceutical herbologist, they have it. Like they've got fabulous courses, that's for sure. But I'm just picking and choosing to suit me at my age. Yeah, So the herbal pharmacy one is fabulous because it's condensed. And I love Yarrow
What
because he
is,
lived where I used to live.
well, is
So
this
every
a
time
Canadian opportunity, do you think? Or you think we have stuff like that in the United States?
I'm sure Wild Rose goes all well, they all go around the world, but thanks to technology again, right?
Okay, Wild
Anybody
Rose.
can, yeah, anybody can, hook into these. My the other one, Joy Essence aromatherapy, clinical one. Again, I took this course because I love aromatherapy. And when I started it 20 years ago when I worked at that other store. That's my poor old one. It's all yellowed and everything, poor thing. But I didn't want to be a clinician because I'm retired. And so I just took pieces out of this that I could use for myself or my family or whatever. So, and they're all fabulous courses, but I'm sure the States has the same, type of courses, you
So
know.
what are you learning that you'd like to share with our listeners, and recognizing that when I mean we could do a whole episode on that.
Oh my,
But I
yes.
mean, right? Because there's so much information there, and we're not promoting or suggesting anything specifically,
No,
but
I'm not promoting anything.
what is the value in us even learning about herbal therapies and aromatherapies?
Okay, so
Like,
to
why are you
condense,
there now after everything you've done
okay,
in your life? Why are you there?
I, for one, I'm not a big fan of the medical system now.
Okay.
I see that it's breaking down, at least in Canada. Um, Being in the military, we've gone from coast to coast. So everywhere we went, we could see how the deterioration in our healthcare system was changing. And I picked up on that. And I thought, okay, well, I have to do something because I'm not the type of person that wants to sit in a clinic office for 8 hours with other people hacking and spewing. But I'm going, no. And I had enough doctors in my life, the past, that I'm thinking I have to take control of my body. And I have to take care of this body myself. And so, how am I going to do that? Number one, eating the best that I possibly can. Whatever goes in this, it's got to be good or
Okay.
forget it, right? And the next thing with the herbal, the reason why I love this is I'm a little biased because Yarrow, who runs this, is in BC, Cumberland, and we used to live in BC for 25 years.
What is that? What is British Columbia?
British Columbia.
Okay. And
Yeah.
it's
And when we were in the
yarrow.
military, we were there for about 25 years, all different postings and things.
Okay.
But where Yarrow's based out of is in BC and about 20 minutes where I used to live. So it's kind of close to my heart. And it was funny too because I remember one of his videos. He says, "Oh, when I took my kids to school, they all say, 'Oh, here comes the hippie dad.'" And when he said that, I thought, "Oh my gosh, my kids always call me a hippie too." So it was one of those things, right? You
How
know.
do you spell his
So
name? Vanessa, how do you spell his name?
Yarrow is from like the herb. His dad named him after a herb,
See, I don't know
which
anything
is
about herbs, so that just shows you I have
that's
no
even
idea.
better.
I need to
It's
learn.
Yarrow, right? So it's Yarrow, and his
Okay.
last name's Willard.
Okay.
Um, so it was kind of close to my heart, but um, he's brilliant. That the whole course and all his staff are just brilliant. Like if you have a question, man, they're on it, right? And it so when I became, really interested in herbals, but I always did, but I just didn't have all the knowledge. And then I had bits and pieces of where my mother says, "Don't ever touch a mushroom, you'll die," right? And so I'm like, "Oh gosh, a mushroom, I can't eat those," right? And of course, I go to Yarrow's class, and he's all mushroomy.
Mushroomy.
You can eat them and not die. Like, so yeah, I could tell you stories about chanterelles, which are very expensive,
What are
very
they
expensive.
called?
They're
Chanterelle?
chanterelles,
Chaterelles?
yes. And when we posted to Masset, which is Haida Gwaii now, which I got a bowl of these chanterelles from one of the indigenous groups and as a gift. And I said, "Oh, they're mushrooms." Cute. So I go, so, anyways, it wasn't until later that one of the other kind gentlemen said, "Do you know what they are?" I says, "Oh, I'm not." He says, "Those are chanterelles, and they're $100 per ounce." I went,
Wow.
"Ooh."
You're cute.
So don't throw them out, okay? So after that, I thought, no, I'm going to take an herbal course. I'm going to start learning about these properly. So that's how I got into herbs. And
You're
I
such
just
a
grew the ones that I felt safe in, right? Like,
yeah.
your parsley and your rosemary and all those. But then now I'm into the making my own teas now. I make my own tinctures.
What are
And
tinctures? Wait, what are tinctures?
I don't know if
Tinctures?
you can see that.
Yeah, what is
Okay.
that?
Okay, so this is it is what, oh yeah, this was the euthanasia one. This was for colds. So when you start feeling like you have a little cold, you just get a little bit of an eyedropper and you just pop it in your mouth. And what it is it's emaciated. So it's all the herbs like euthanasia. This was euthanasia. And then it's mixed with alcohol, and it depends on the percentage of the alcohol that you use. And then you let it ferment. And then after that, you take out the herb, which is left. Um, and then what's left is your what they call tincture. And then you have a little
Tincture.
drop.
Never heard of that.
And I tell you, when I had that influenza 3 weeks ago, it was almost like that. Well, I was, I just followed my body's message, and pop one of these little puppies in, and it was like, oh, that feels good on the throat, right? Maybe I'll have a little more. Anyway,
I love that.
um,
Followed my body's messages.
yes,
First of
yes,
all,
and
you're such a delight to have on the show. You just you just personify what, when we talk about successful aging and how do you define successful? Look at you. You're joyful.
I
You're
am.
you are.
If
You
not, I'll
know,
cry.
right. And and I think that's the key that we age with quality of life and joy in our heart. And yeah, we're gonna have setbacks. Yeah, we're gonna have things that we have to adapt to, we have to overcome. But, taking care of your body, and I think I heard you say too, from the inside out,
Yep. Inside first,
right?
then it
And
resonates
so,
outside.
yeah,
And don't forget your meditations and your mind and
your
your
mind.
spiritual peace. That's all
So,
part of it.
so I hope our listeners understand how much I enjoy. I love our conversations. During my dissertation program, we've had the opportunity to have just some kind of friendship conversations here and
Oh,
there.
absolutely.
And I always have enjoyed our connection. I learned so much from you. I would like to give you this opportunity before I kind of close up to share with our listeners, anything about your journey through aging in motion, what it has meant to
Well,
you.
I think if you for people that think that they have to rely on outside um, things to help them, like medicals or going to the gym, like to motivate them, that's not always going to work. You have to work from within. And to me, that's where if you just take that time to listen, and I think a lot of people don't do that anymore. They're too busy running to the doctor or running to the gym. Well, I got to do my 20,000, whatever. No, you don't. What you need to do is listen to what your body is saying and what your mind is saying, and be fulfilled in your own sense of peace. And then that would exude outside to bring you forward in your aging, because I never look at it as like I'm going to be 70 next year. Well, I don't see that as a number. I think a lot of people get caught up in the number or what they look like, or you have to be who you are, and be okay to say, no, I don't need to do that. I'm doing this, or and keep learning. I think that is a key too. Keep your brain moving, keep it learning. Like, I mean, I just found out about the shoe thing, and I was so excited about those, because that makes sense. And it's almost like, oh my gosh, that's so great. And like I found out, I got fabulous herbs and greens from this hydroponics company in Edmonton now. And when I got the bag, when I went to pick them up, I opened them and I put my head right in the bag. And I thought, oh, this smell of fresh herbs and greenery. I just started eating them, and they go, um, can you maybe go home and do that? So good,
You're incredible.
you know.
And I don't know if our
So feel joy in little things to me,
yeah,
right?
and I don't know if our listeners if they watch this episode, but your artwork, you're an artist too. I can see a couple of your
Yeah.
on the
Well, I
wall.
try. I'm a starving artist.
You're also
And I
great.
always keep saying, people keep saying, can you sell some of them? No, because, that one's very, that's special. I can't
Yeah.
sell that.
Well, from your story, even from your early childhood, I feel like you just may have been born this way because you're
I think,
very internally motivated. I talk about a lot on my podcast through self-determination theory about how people who are very autonomous take actions in their life, feel like they have the control in their life to take these actions, to pivot, to try different things, it really gives us an opportunity to live highly, I guess you could say self-actualized lives, to live fulfilling lives. And so that's what I
mhm,
wanted to talk today about, aging in motion and what that looks like, and
mhm.
identity and adaptation. And so first of all, I enjoy you so much. I really learn from you. I love having you on the show.
I love being with you.
Thank you. I think that you demonstrate, there's this word called ageism. Okay. And I don't know if it's because you're in Canada or United States. I just feel like this is a message for anybody. It doesn't matter where you
Oh,
are, where you're
absolutely.
listening.
Worldwide. Worldwide.
Worldwide, we have people that listen to the show across, the world. And so wherever you are, aging does not have to be about decline. Vanessa shows us that. She is teaching us
Fight
that.
it.
But it's
Get the warrior song in your head.
yeah, adaptation, shifting your identity, having multiple identities, triathlete, swim coach, artist, herbalist, all these I don't remember how to say the
Oh, I Chi or Qigong. Qigong.
gong. It's just never, we don't have to limit ourselves. Allow yourself the opportunity to think outside the box, to allow yourself to
Absolutely.
grow, and don't be scared. Try to approach life with a growth mindset, and you definitely
Absolutely.
personify that. So, to wrap up, this episode is to remind all of us that wherever we are today, whatever our age is, that aging in motion is sustainable. You might have to do what Vanessa said, listen to your body a little bit, make some changes, but it's definitely sustainable throughout our lives. It's never too late to start. I also want to make that point. I was thinking about that
Yes.
as you were talking. I mean, you've been fortunate enough to you figured it out very early in your life, but it's never too late to start. It doesn't matter how old you are. You can start today.
Oh,
Okay? It's
absolutely.
important. And start in the pool, right? If you are scared of the water, find somebody like Vanessa as a coach, as an
That's what
instructor.
I do. When I
Teach
go
you.
swimming, I'm
Yeah.
usually trying to get my legs in, but I always get people saying, can you help me with this or do that? There's
Yeah.
lots of people that will help,
Lots
you
of
know.
people that want to help you. And when life throws you curveballs, and Vanessa, you gave us some really just beautiful examples of just never give up. Never give
That's
up.
right.
Believe in yourself. And sometimes it just takes sometimes it just takes a slow and steady pace to move forward until you can progress quicker. But never give up on yourself, never give up on your dreams and your goals. And I don't know. I'm so grateful to have you on the show. And
I'm so pleased that you asked me. I'm very honored you asked me
yeah,
because,
absolutely.
I mean, I love you like my own daughter.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. And
But
thank you for coming on the PhD Journey Unplugged podcast. It will always be, before I sign off here, it will always be a platform to educate and motivate, to bring people on my show that demonstrate resiliency, demonstrate how we can live our lives to the fullest and show us what, what successful aging looks like. So thank you so much for
Mm.
joining us today. Don't
Oh,
hang
my
up yet.
pleasure.
Don't hang up yet. I'm just going to sign
I
off.
won't.
All
I'll
right.
never hang up.
Okay. All right. Bye, everybody. Thanks for joining us
Bye
today.
bye.